All right, this is the last video on 5-note melodic figures based on chapter 18 from the Charles Horton and Lawrence Ritchie textbook, Harmony Through Melody. So I ended the last video talking about polyphonic melody. I realized I didn't quite finish that discussion because I didn't show a few different things. So first, I didn't show that this can be, of course, in 16th notes, as all of the figures can be, or 8th notes, but we'll do 16th notes here. And I didn't discuss or talk about how it doesn't, the polyphonic melody doesn't have to be above. It can also be below. It can be a really quite a wide interval as long as you're leaping to a chord tone. So those two tones that are on the weak beat have to be chord tones. If we have a passing motion like we have up here, and I'm going to do that too, that middle note doesn't have to be a chord tone because we're implying passing. So remember, in passing, that doesn't have to be a chord tone. So in this case, I'm going to assume that this chord is a D-F-A chord. Okay, so that means that then I'm going to use this passing figure again, but let's set this up. Hopefully the sound is okay. Oh, I was going to do this in 16th notes. Let's do this in 16th notes. Okay, so now we have a 5-note polyphonic melody. This is now implying D-F-A. We have our background figure, which is passing. That is not a chord tone, and that's totally fine, but we're leaping from A to D, and those two are both chord tones, and our weak beat notes are chord tones, okay? There's your final look at polyphonic melody. Okay, let me move on. Oh, sorry. Let me move on now to 3-note melodic figures embedded. So sometimes what you'll find is that you're analyzing something and you're thinking to yourself, that's not a 5-note melodic figure. That's not a 4-note melodic figure. It's because you have two 3-note melodic figures linked in a row. So like in quadruple paraphrase, you will have a figure that's in the background, actually also like polyphonic melody, but then you'll have another melodic figure from, if we're doing quarter notes, beat 1 to beat 3, and then beat 3 back to beat 1. Okay, and that'll be, and this can also be with 16th notes. It doesn't have to be with quarter notes, but again, I'll show you with quarter notes. So I'll do the background structure up here so that you can see that first. So let's say I did my, like quadruple paraphrase, I'm going to first decorate with half notes. This time we're starting on B, so I'm going to do a double skip first. Oh, I said I was going to do half notes. Okay, and now I'm going to do a skip step just to have a nice, oh goodness, I was holding too many things. Oh, I have a book that's sitting up there. Okay, so there is my, now I've taken this and I've decorated it. So you can see my background passing. Now I've done a double skip and I've done a skip step, okay? I'm going to now decorate this as you would see it in quarter notes, and then I'll do the same figure, but in 16th notes over to the side here. So now if we are going to see this in quarter notes, I'm now going to do a skip step here and here. Now let's say we were actually thinking in G major here. So that means that, remember, you always have to leap to a chord tone. So in this case, you had a chord that was B, D, F sharp. Okay, that's not our primary key because we don't have a key signature. But again, we do need to be applying harmony. We have to actually be following the right chord progression, and we'll talk about that once we talk about analyzing accompanied melody. That's chapter 20. But here, I am going to do a skip step, but I need an F sharp. Okay. There's my first skip step. Now I'm going to do another skip step. And now that gets us to the downbeat. Okay. So this is definitely not one of our 5-note melodic figures, but it is a skip step and a skip step. So your analysis of this would look would look like this. Let me continue on and then I'll do the analysis for all of it. Okay, and so now I'm going to do two other figures. So we now have a third here, so I could do passing if I wanted to, but why don't we do a 3-note broken chord? Why not? Okay, so I'm going to an E, so I'm going to leap a fifth first. Okay, there's my broken chord. And now at this point, I'm going to do, why don't we do an échappé? Okay, so an échappé, remember, a step first, and then a leap over the bar line. Okay, so now I have skip step. So in the background, the far background, we have passing. Next, we have a double skip and a skip step. And now we have a skip step, and I'm going to show how you would analyze this. So instead of going downbeat to downbeat, we're going beat 1 to beat 3, or the first to the third. Again, beat 3 to beat 1. Again, beat 1 to beat 3. And beat 3 to beat 1. And for all of these, you would simply put skip step, skip step. This is a broken chord. And this is an échappé. Okay, so this is how you would analyze that. We don't even have to worry about what that sort of middle ground figure is. I could do this whole thing with 16th notes. I mean, it's going to change my formatting a little bit. Maybe I'll put it up here so it won't change this part too much because I've done so much in there, and Finale automatically changes things around on me. So I can do the same figure, but I'm going to do this just with 16th notes, and you would analyze it the same way. Okay, so starting with the B. Oh goodness, that was too many. And I'll do the last one as a quarter note. Okay, so now you can see this same figure all with 16th notes. Again, you would analyze it 3 notes at a time with overlapping brackets. Okay, so that's using your 3-note vocal figures. Of course, pieces of music don't always have steady rhythm. It's not like an etude of some kind, although there's a lot of Bach suites where that is the case. But when things, when you have mixtures of quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, and so forth, you have to make some decisions about where where your melodic figure starts and ends. So again, if you're doing a 3-note and 4-note vocal figures, they have to be downbeat to downbeat. You have a bunch of 4-note figures that can be within a beat, and then you have strong beat to strong beat 5-note melodic figures. So this would be a way to use these 3-note vocal figures. I'm going to talk about 2 more figures. These are really quite straightforward. What's happened is that because we now have seen a prime embellishment that's leap of a fourth, that becomes something that you can do. So let's first do this. I can just do this with half notes because you might see this with half notes. So now we're allowed to do a 3-note prime embellishment that's leaping a fourth instead of a third. Okay. And of course you can see that even is with just quarter notes, or let's do 8th notes this time. Okay. So that is now allowed. And because our instruments can leap much easier than the voice can an octave, and even more than that, you can now see a broken chord with the interval of a 6, meaning you leap an octave. So I'll do this first in half notes. Okay. Okay, so that's it in half notes. Let's do this one in 16th notes. Okay, so you can see 3-note broken chords that have an octave leap in it. That's it. We're done all the instrumental melodic figures. You have now learned all the possible melodic figures that you could ever learn, and hopefully this helps you with your analysis and with your assignments.